Picture this, you're a rising artist from Germany coming to America with the hopes of making it big. You meet a producer, sign a deal, get an advance, you even get a new look. Only to find out the producer doesn't want you to sing, he wants you to lip sync to other people's voices for a group he had already created. After being reluctant to go along with this, being manipulated to go along with this, you end up selling millions, getting fans all around the world, getting #1 hits, even winning a Grammy for Best New Artist. Only to have it taken away from you months later when that same producer that legally bound you to lip sync to other people's voices exposes you, making you lose everything, becoming the laughingstocks of the music industry. That's exactly what happened to Milli Vanilli.
You guys are Milli Vanilli.
No, we're not.
Who owns? That's what I was going to ask. Who owns Milli Vanilli?
If it wasn't for Tony.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning back in. I'm back with another video, and this video is going to be more of like a music discussion. I haven't done one of those in a while. Some of y'all know I've been doing my Proud Family videos, but speaking of those videos, one of the last videos I did was about pretty privilege, right? And I remember somebody left a comment saying the pretty privilege discussion reminds me of the group Milli Vanilli and everything that went on with them and the whole lip syncing scandal and how they were just seen as the faces of the group when they really weren't singing. They weren't showing their vocal talent. That made me want to do this whole video about Milli Vanilli and just having a discussion and basically a review of their documentary, because if you don't know, they have a new documentary on Amazon Prime / Paramount Plus. And even the tagline of the documentary says 10 million albums sold, one epic lie. Basically detailing how they went from fame to shame. They grew up in humble beginnings, they met the producer, they became successful, they became megastars, and then everything hit the fan.
So we give this Grammy back now?
So basically this is going to be a discussion of the documentary and just a music discussion about Milli Vanilli, the group, and the whole entire situation, and how we really don't know what be going on behind the scenes in the music industry.
You think you know, you have no idea.
Now, of course, our favorite artists, most of us would expect or know it's not like lip syncing to other people's voices, but this story was such an extraordinary story, and the fact that they became so mainstream is what made it such a big deal, especially when it first happened, and this is like 1990. But the thing that got me is when you watch the documentary, and even now, you'll realize that the producer who was the mastermind behind all of this, Frank Farian, he never got no backlash for this. He had a history of doing this, using black talent for their looks, for their voices, for their dancing ability, and then disposing of them when they became a liability, when they weren't making hit records no more, and then going on to the next. He had a history of just using black talents for as long as he could, and then okay, on to the next one, on to the next one.
You talking about class? You got a lot of nerve.
From the beginning, they wanted to sing. Imagine going into the studio, you signed a deal, you got to advance, they got a whole new look. You know, they had like the braid, dreadlock hairstyles, the leather jackets, the different shoulder pad jackets, all those different outfits they had, right? They got this new look. It's finally time for you to go into the studio. And then the producer plays songs for you. And you're like, okay, I like this song, all right. Okay, who's gonna go first? Who's gonna record the first verse? Who's gonna record the bridge, the chorus, the hook? And then producer's like, what do you mean?
Down like that, okay?
Going first. The song is already done. No, matter of fact, the album is already done.
Wait a minute, hold on.
See, that's one of the backlashes of Pretty Privilege. Pretty Privilege going wrong for Milli Vanilli is they were just seen as the faces. They had that Model-S look, right? He just saw, oh, they would be perfect for the group. Because, truth be told, they never said it, but the real artists he had singing, most of them were black. They weren't attractive enough in his eyes to be the faces of the group. And some of the session singers he had doing background vocals, they weren't the right race. They weren't black. So he's seen these two black attractive guys, perfect. They had like the athletic build, they could dance. He didn't care about how they sounded because the album was already done. every music video, every live performance, you gotta lip sync and act like it's really you when you know it's somebody that you never even met.
Oh my God.
You know, that's like me going on somebody's stage, somebody's concert, you know, a big auditorium, a big arena, talking about some. Like, see, the pretty privilege in this case, he just saw them as the faces of the group. He didn't care about their singing ability, their other talents. You're just the face. That's all you're good for. Oh, and you can dance too? Perfect. You'll be good for the live performances. Because, you know, that's a major part of being an artist. Back then, especially now, but really back then, was the live performance aspect. Meeting fans in person, impressing fans in person, making people want to go to your concert and being a big deal and being like these big megastar, pop, rock stars that could just captivate the audience. They were great at that. They could dance, they could do backflips, they had the, you know, the dreadlock braid hairstyle, they could swing it everywhere. They were great performers, but it wasn't their vocals. He didn't even give them a chance to hone their craft, to really see if they were real vocalists, if they could really sing, because he just saw their look, he saw their aesthetic and was like, oh, that's enough. The songs, the albums, it's already done. Like, I don't care about their singing ability because they're not going to sing.
Yeah. I don't want to hear that.
He didn't tell them until it was too late. And it was that situation where it was like, they had already signed a contract, they had already got money. So it was like, if you back out of this, you're gonna have to pay me my money back. And he know they didn't have money because they came from humble beginnings in Germany. So you see how he manipulated the situation where they felt like, okay, we just gotta go along with this for however long. But what happened? They became so successful, number ones, albums, number one hit singles, millions sold. They even got a Grammy for Best New Artist. This is how far this facade, this epic lie went. And it was kind of like, damn, we can't say nothing now or we're gonna lose everything. For the next few albums after that success, Rob and Fab were telling the producer, Frank Farian, like, okay, on the next album, can we sing? Okay, can we sing this time? He kept telling them no, no, no. He had already hired singers and background vocalists and all these different people that were going to sing on the next album. And they was just like, again? Like, we already did this the first time. We were successful. We got to go through this again? And throughout the time, they would really use their real voices in live performances. You could hear the potential. You could hear that they could really sing, right? Not like they weren't top 10 vocalists, but you could hear like they could hold their own on the stage. Pretty sure with practice, they would have been great in the studio. But the producer never allowed it. Nobody talks about that. All the blame went on Rob and Fab when they were bound, legally bound in the contract with this producer that prevented them from using their real voices. Then let's talk about that whole lip syncing scandal where people realized that they were lip singing, but they didn't realize it wasn't even to their own voices, where the track skipped and it was,
I wanted to die. It stopped. Girl, you know it's girl, you know it.
in real time, it made it seem like that was like the end of their career. But looking at the documentary, you realize that that happened more than once. And the audience just went along with it. They didn't really care. Rob and Fab, particularly Rob, was really embarrassed by it because they already knew the lie they had to continue. And they felt like that was going to be like a, oh my God, they caught on to us, it's over. But they had the audience in the palm of their hands, that the audience was still cheering and jumping up and down. They didn't really even pay attention to it. They didn't really even care. It was the fact that they were demanding more money from Frank that made him want to expose them as the frauds. When I said again, he was the one that manipulated them into lip syncing in the first place. But they the ones that got the backlash from the media, you know, shows like In Living Color and Arsenio Hall made fun of them.
You two can look and sound just like Milli Vanilli.
Their records plummeted. The fans just left them and they became the laughingstocks of the music industry. Like, just imagine, now I know this is out of this world, but just imagine you found out like Michael Jackson wasn't really singing all his songs, or you found out like Beyonce wasn't really singing all her songs. Now, I can say, even artists like Michael Jackson and Beyonce and Britney Spears have lip synced before, especially when you're one of those artists who do a lot of rigorous dancing, you do a lot of intense choreography. Sometimes you can't really sing live while you're doing all kind of intricate choreography. jumping up and down and flipping and twisting and kicking. You can't sing amazingly. You sound like the record while you're doing that intense choreography. So you got to use a backtrack. You might have to lip sing here and there in between the performance, but that was to their own voices. Milli Vanilli was lip singing, but it was to some other men from a whole nother state that Frank probably auditioned, probably heard. It was like, oh, you would be great for this song. You'd be great for this song. And the men, session singers, thinking they're doing demos, they're actually recording albums that's gonna top the charts, get number ones, get Grammy nominations. From the other perspective, imagine that you go with this producer thinking that you're recording songs for a demo, or you're just doing like session singles, session songs, and then a few months later you hear the song, you hear your voice on the radio. You're like, wait, isn't this a song I did for such and such, like in April? You hear the song on the radio, you see these two guys that you never met before in your life performing the songs on TV, you see them in the music video on MTV, Milli Vanilli concerts, and they're miming to your voice. Imagine that. And you know, Frank Farian, the producer, paid them their hush money so they don't have to say nothing. They signed contracts. It was like, okay, you're gonna keep singing these songs. These guys are gonna be the faces, and that's it. It is what it is. I don't want to hear nothing. Don't expose nothing, or there's gonna be some problems. Fab and Rob only got paid their royalties for like public appearances and like performing. All the intense work they had to do, all those live performances, they didn't even really get paid money they could have earned because none of their vocals was on none of the songs. They sold millions, all these #1 hit records, but their vocals weren't on those songs, so they weren't credited. They got no royalties from the music, only live performances. So you think about it in a way, say they got like $60,000, they could have got like 400, 500,000 from the royalties of the music alone, but they never sung on the albums, they never sung on the songs, so they only got paid for performing. And this is true. So you see how this whole situation was just a big mess, and the whole mastermind behind this was Frank Farian. He never gets no backlash, he never gets no criticism for this. It all falls on Fab and Rob. You know, another thing, when I was looking at some of the clips, and I went on YouTube and looked at some of the music videos, and some of the songs, they sounded nice, and I could see how they would be hit records back in that day, like, you know, the late 80s, early 90s. But looking at some of the music videos, I'm like, how could nobody tell? Like, to me, some of them were kind of obvious, like, you want her back again, you let her walk away. Like, was people really that gullible, or were people just so captivated in the image that they didn't care? They just wanted to believe that was them. Because sometimes I'm like, that was kind of obvious. And they even had a time where they performed at the Grammys. They were nominated for Best New Artist. They won. But before that, they performed. And you could tell the camera panned to the audience. And a lot of them were just looking like you could tell there was like this unspoken thought that, something's not right here.
Hold up, wait. Oh my God, hold up.
But nobody said nothing. They won the Grammy. And after that, that's when they really became like, oh, we winning Grammys now? Okay, now we're going to tell Frank what to do. He wants us to do this. We want more money. They started demanding more money. To keep up with this lie, they started demanding more money from the producer, Frank, who was the one that homed it all together. And after a while, he got tired of being blackmailed by them. So he said, you know what? They want to keep blackmailing me for more money. How about I expose them before they expose me? And the fact that he exposed them for being just the face and not really singing the songs made it even worse, because although he was the mastermind, he did it in a way where it's like, oh, I was the producer and this was my idea, but they went along with it, So it made it seem like, oh, these two are just getting over. They knew what it was, and they knew they wasn't singing, and they was just, in it for the money. Well, it was like, you're the one that manipulated them in the first place, because you knew they didn't really come from a lot of money. You knew they just needed the opportunity, and you took advantage of that. You know, you took advantage of their looks, not only their looks, but you took advantage of their vulnerability. and their drive for success. They rebranded themselves after this, and they even came out with their own albums. Of course, it wasn't as successful. And you notice, you watch interviews with them, when it was just them two using their real voice, they'll be in an interview with somebody and the person will be like, okay, sing something right now. Let me hear your voice. Like, okay, y'all were lip syncing before, now show us that you can really sing. So they would have them sing on the spot. And like I said, they sounded really good. Like, they sounded like they could fit in that era of music. Frank Farian never gave them a chance to explore or use their voices or to get that training to be like, oh wow, they can really sing. Okay, maybe I don't need the session recorders this time. Like, maybe let me give them a chance. No, his mind was already set. Like, no, I'm having them sing, I'm having them perform. Mind you, by this time it was 2-3 years after, the public attention to Milli Vanilli had became so negative. They were seen as such a laughingstock that nobody really took them seriously. Even when they proved that they could really sing, people lost interest. People didn't care no more. And all people could think about with Milli Vanilli is frauds. Oh, they can't really sing. Oh, they tricked the public. They tricked the media. They tricked everybody. When it was really the producer that manipulated that whole entire predicament. And unfortunately, as things would have it, Rob and Fab will end up separating. They went their separate ways. Rob, really unfortunately, he got into like addiction and drugs, and he ended up taking his own life. And I was just like, wow, you know? And Fab, he ended up becoming a solo artist. And if you really look at his clips singing, you could tell his voice had matured. He learned the English language very well. And that's another thing I meant to mention. They came from Germany. Rob had a German accent. Fab had more of like a French accent, but their accents were really thick, really heavy. So even when they were talking, when you heard them talk, you heard this thick accent, and you'd be like, how they went from talking like this to singing like... You sacrificed the good love. The backlash and scrutiny and just the negative press, the negative attention from the whole situation just weighed heavily on Rob, and that's what made him fall into that addiction, and it was just too late for him to get out of it. Fab ended up breaking away from the whole spotlight, media attention. He started to live like a life of solitude. He didn't want to be bothered. He didn't want to be recognized because he felt like everybody was going to be like, that's the guy from Milli Vanilli, and like make fun of him. But after a while, he emerged to the public. He ended up getting married, ended up having kids. And the best thing with this situation is in the documentary, and even on YouTube, you can look at the clips. I'm not going to show that many clips because, you know, YouTube like to come for the copyright. Look up Fab from like 2018. He did a lot of live performances where he's singing in his real voice. He's singing the songs. He has a real hard but light pop rock voice that sounds really good with the songs. And that only goes to show, like, if their vocal talent was really trained, they could have been some really great singers. But Frank Farian, the producer, didn't really care to give them that training. He just wanted them as the face. He didn't see beyond their looks. So with all of that being said, I want to know y'all thoughts on Milli Vanilli, the whole entire lip syncing scandal. Who do you really blame in that sense? I really blame Frank Farian, the producer, because he's the mastermind behind it. He's the one that controlled everything. He's the one that manipulated them into even doing that in the first place because they really wanted to show their talents and sing. They were great dancers. They had the look, but they wanted to show their talents, but they weren't allowed to. They legally weren't allowed to. And they had to continue with the lie that blew up in their face in the end. And Frank Farian never got no criticism, no backlash. And that's really something that's like, wow, it's tragic. Rob ended up dying because of it. Fortunately, Fab is still out. He was the one able to tell the story. Sometimes when he feels like it, he performs the songs and you can really hear like, wow, he has a great voice. He has a family now, he has kids. I like that Fab was able to bounce back and not only tell the story for himself, but tell the story for Rob, who's not with us anymore, to tell the story for himself. And this goes to show The music industry, the entertainment industry is not all it's cracked up to be. So many people want to be big and famous, but you never know what goes on behind the scenes. This Milli Vanilli case was just one of the most publicized things that happened, publicized scandals, but I'm pretty sure there's so many scandals with our favorite artists of the present and past that we might not even know about.
You think you know, you have no idea.
I really want to know your thoughts on everything. So please guys, let me know what you think down below. Let's get this discussion started. This should be really interesting because I really want to get back into the music discussions, and this Milli Vanilli scandal was one of the most interesting ones to talk about. Having watched the documentary or just knowing about it, researching it, what do you think about it? Who do you think was in the wrong? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see y'all in the next video.